Creating conversations you can share. That's what arrow.net is all about. Arrow.net. ARROE.net. All right, let's pod crash. Episode number 148 is with Teddi Mellencamp and Tamra Judge from the podcast Two T's in a Pod.
Good morning, Arrow. How are you? We're good.
Good morning. We're good.
I got to ask you, like I ask all rock stars and stuff like that, the way that you guys perform on that microphone, it's like it is an extension to your imagination because you guys are such naturals on that microphone.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, my mouth has gotten me in trouble for all these years, so why not put it to good use here?
But is it? Well, that's what I love about the microphone is that you can reach into areas that that go further than just your ears.
Very true, and we're happy to be here in Charlotte right now.
Wait! You're in Charlotte, North Carolina?
No, aren't you?
Yeah. Okay. See how you use that microphone? You had me convinced.
Right? I've never been to North Carolina. I'm actually really wanting to go.
It's a pretty cool place. Ask your friend Teddi. She actually lived in South Hilton Head?
Hilton Head, South Carolina.
Yeah.
I did.
Wow.
And you can't get to Hilton Head directly. So anytime that I would go home or go to my dad's or anything, you always fly through Charlotte.
Yep. And I love the way that South Carolina does that with the beach cities and stuff like that, because I think that what they're trying to do is take care of all small towns. So you have to drive through every single one of them to get to your destination.
Very true. When you're going to south of the border, it's like you never saw such a place, and there's all these billboards everywhere.
So who came up with the name Two T's in a Pod? Because I'm telling you, that's very original.
Oh my gosh, this is hilarious. When iHeart reached out to me and they, were explaining things to me and told me it was Teddi's podcast, so I just assumed we were going to take the same name. And I was talking to one of my friends, and I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go and start, with Teddi on her podcast." And he's like, "Oh, Two T's in a Pod." And I'm like, "Oh my God!" I go, "That is perfect. That's the name." So I can't take credit for it, but I definitely gave it to iHeart, and I didn't expect them to be like, "Oh, let's." Change the name or anything like that, but it did work out perfectly.
Well, iHeart has been such an innovator when it comes to podcasting, because I remember back in 2012 when I came to them with an idea for podcasting, they were like going, okay, I don't know what you're doing, but just keep practicing. And now look at what they've done.
It's huge. They have so many incredible podcasts, and their production team is so on it. I mean, and they're so lovely to work with. You forget you're working.
They are amazing.
We're in this age of connections, storytelling and stuff. And that's what you guys do on this podcast, is that I like the way that you go in there and you break it down and you tell us what, like what's happening, how we can look deeper into the show. I don't watch the show the same anymore.
Yeah.
We love that. We like to compare ourselves to sports broadcasters who used to play sports. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, we're actually injured. Athletes, injured athletes who got kicked to the curb. So now
we're redshirted.
Now we got a face for radio.
How do you prep for it? How do you show prep for it? Do you guys sit there and Zoom each other first and then go into it, or how do you do it?
We send a lot of just news topics to each other all the time, but iHeart's so great to work with. I mean, you know better than anything, Teddi.
I mean, they send us, we're all on a group text, and then we send our stuff back and forth, and then they pretty much write it up for us. But we try not to speak via voice prior to it, because we want it to be fresh. It's like our opinions, our responses. And sometimes if you talk things through, then it doesn't feel as natural.
It's too rehearsed.
Absolutely true, because we in radio we call that save it for the air, and we would be in the studio and go da, 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 save it for the air, don't go there, and so then you sit there in that studio. It's like you're alone, and you don't want to say anything.
That's pretty much how it goes. And then you're every once in a while you're struck with something hilarious, and then you're so excited that you thought about it on the air. So you're like,
right.
Well, listeners need to understand that both of you have got real lives and stuff like that away from the microphone, in the way that Teddi, that you hold people accountable for their health and for their strength and stuff like that. I mean, that you're a giving person in that way.
I mean, truthfully, it started out as a personal journey. I just needed to change my life. I was at a point, where I was struggling. I was looking to other people for validation. I wasn't taking care of myself, and I wasn't able to be, the best mom, the best wife, the best business person, anything until I started taking care of myself. And then I realized that, my actual purpose, once I got to a place where I was comfortable, was helping other people achieve the same goal. Because I think the biggest thing when you're struggling is you continue to think that you're alone. Mm-hmm. And just knowing you're not alone. There's other people in the same situation. We're all in this together has really just been such a game changer to me. And now it's been the only thing that's ever worked for me. I'm, over 7 years into, being accountable to taking care of myself. And I'm really, really lucky.
Have you created a podcast in any way where you can share that journey with people that are tapping in? Because there are so many people alone in their cars, alone going back to work, and they need people like yourself in order to spread that journey.
Yes, for sure. I've talked about it on Teddi Teapot. And then I did a podcast with Ed Milet where I really talked about the beginning of the transfer, my life transformation, because, people always say, how did you get motivated? How did you start? I'm like, I didn't get motivated. I just was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was that person that became like misery loves company, and I would vent and I complain. And finally I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm taking action. And I started actually an Instagram account and just said, I'm changing my life today. Follow along if you're interested. And what that ended up doing was, of course, people started following because they wanted to see if I was going to succeed, but then people also started following to see if I was going to fail. But what that started doing was driving me and building my self-confidence to know that I can show up for myself.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tamra, you live in a world as well that needs to be motivated. With the cosmetic line and also home sales and stuff like that. You've always got to be on your game.
Yeah, we've had our Cut Fitness, our gym, for 9 years now. I own a health and wellness, Vina CBD, which we've been in business for 3 years. I'm a real estate agent, influencer, mom, grandma, now podcaster. I too have been asked many times for Eddie and I to do a health and fitness podcast, and that's something we played around with for quite a while, and I just never felt fully comfortable doing it. I was always afraid of podcasts, mostly because of my big mouth and getting in trouble. But I was just thinking the other day, Teddi, that we should definitely devote it, even if it's 5 minutes to each podcast about health and fitness, because that's something that we're both very passionate about. And it's not something that it's coming in and out of our life. This is our life. This is our lifestyle. And a lot of people don't understand that. I've mentored people that have never worked out in their life, and all of a sudden they're working out consistently, and they're like, why didn't I do this sooner? Mm-hmm. I didn't realize how it was going to help me mentally, physically, everything. So,
and that's the beauty of the podcast. We can continue, changing it up and figuring out what works for us and feels most authentic to us. And that's what I absolutely love about doing it with iHeart, is they're open to our suggestions and what we're interested in talking about, and it makes it fun. Even this last week we did a thing on our mean tweets, and people are dying because the stuff people write to you, I would never in a million years write to somebody.
Right. I love them. They're like, if you think that people hate you now that you're hanging out, they're gonna hate you worse. And I'm like, I'm going to lose sleep over that one. Yeah.
It's that connection, because people always ask me about terrestrial radio versus podcasting, because there's still so many people that don't understand the strength of podcasting and why they need to become listeners. And it's because we get to say things that relate with you and that aren't governed by program directors and consultants. And it really it's like I'm sitting when I'm listening to Two T's in a Pod. You're in the car with me. That is so valuable to me, because I'm not alone when you're in the car with me.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and especially if you live in a place where you're in the car a lot, it makes your time go by so fast. And you're just like, when you're listening to a good podcast, you're like, oh, phew, what traffic?
Yeah.
I do have to ask you, though, were you drinking champagne or was it water? Because when you brought that up at the beginning part of that podcast episode, I'm going, they painted a picture inside my imagination. Now I have to question the situation.
Mine was champagne, because
mine was champagne too. For the first one, we haven't continued to drink on the pod, but for the first one,
speak for yourself.
No,
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
I see how it is. Well, next week I'm on it.
We should have a segment called Tipsy with the Teas.
Tipsy with Teas.
Yes, and we'll drink and interview somebody.
Brilliant.
It'll be illegal for a long time.
I know, it'll be illegal for a long time.
Let's talk about Kyle. Why does Kyle know it all? What's going on in Kyle's life that he knows it all?
Kyle, she is just, the beauty of her. She's been doing this for so many years that it's just second nature to her, and she's so much fun. And I think that, we had so much fun interviewing her that, it felt like we were just hanging out in, each other's living room.
And that in itself is talk about a connection. Because that's reaching beyond the moment with the cameras and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I think what people don't realize is, when we originally started out on Housewives, it did feel like work. It was showing up to a job, but then true relationships really are formed, and they become some of your best friends. And I never would have thought at 35 years old, I was going to meet one of my best friends filming a reality television show where I fight with women. So,
well, I've always wondered that, because in the radio industry, we're all team chum inside the studio. But boy, once somebody's terminated, well, there went your family out the door. It's like a divorce. It's gone. And you try to still have that family spirit, but it doesn't really work. But I love it that you guys still have that connection.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. Because, we've talked about this on the podcast, but, some of Tamra's castmates weren't quite the same. And
no,
it's
a different cast. It's a different cast on Orange County. They're so cutthroat over there. And the one beauty, I was actually talking to Heather Dubrow about this yesterday, is the beauty of Beverly Hills is you guys support each other, and you're there for each other, thick or thin, no matter what's going on in your lives. And the other day, Teddi, when you told me that the girls text you and said they missed you at the People's Choice Awards, I'm like, that would never happen in Orange County. They're like, you're gone. I'm on top now.
Yeah, Beverly Hills, I never felt like there was a situation where anybody was fighting for screen time or, would do anything to get to the top. Truthfully, we're friends that are doing the best we can to make a show and be authentic to who we are. But I never felt like, oh, these women are going to try to ruin my business or ruin my marriage or any of those types of things. Yeah. Which,
you're lucky. You're so lucky.
Very lucky.
Well, I've always wondered that about when things do happen on the show, how does it affect, everything that's away from those cameras? Because you say the wrong thing and in this cancel culture society we live in nowadays, it's like, oh crap, I just said it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard to be on reality TV, especially if you push the envelope and you say how you feel and you're honest. You can get canceled. You can get sued. People are so sensitive to things. And it for me personally, because I do have a mouth, it's pretty hard.
Yeah. And for me, go ahead. I'm an overthinker by nature. So put a camera in front of me and then make a mistake. You go to bed and you're just in your own head about it. And I think oftentimes it's so much worse in your head than it ends up being. And then the times that you think aren't going to be bad, something happens that it's, there's a flashback or there's whatever, and then it ends up terrible for you. So I learned you never know what to expect. And if you think something's going to be bad, it's going to be all right. If you think something's going to be great, it's terrible.
Don't you feel that you can sleep better at night, Teddi, now that you don't have the show and the episodes coming and you're like, why'd I do that? Why'd I say that? And you stay awake at night thinking about all the crap that you said that you shouldn't have said or
about you. The hardest part for me about being on the show was the confessionals that you'd have to watch later once you thought you were already okay and in a good place with somebody, and then they say something bad about you and you're like, hold on, but we're good. And that they did it after the fact, so then you have to get re-upset yourself and then you say something, and it's just it can be really fun, but it can also be very toxic to your mental health.
So do you become addicted to those cameras? Because there's something about the energy of a camera that even though it's off to the side and stuff like that, you still know that you have to be on, and that adrenaline is moving through you.
Yeah, 100% for me. I did drama in high school, so I'm normally pretty quiet. But when a camera gets in front of me, or I get in front of a camera, I just pep up and it's almost like I don't know the camera's there, but my body kind of goes into this performing type of mode.
And I think you kind of see the same thing throughout. Most of the housewives that I have met from all the different cities are kind of introverts. but they have like this something that comes out in them once they're on camera, and it's not fake. It's just, there's fire in you. There's all of a sudden, and plus there's something very different about, like, let's say that Tamra and I were on a show together, and you know, in real life, something isn't that big of a deal, but all of a sudden when you know that so many other people are going to be judging the disagreement, all of a sudden your opinions are a lot stronger and a lot bigger, because you're thinking, I need people to see my side. I need to be right on this, or whatever it is. And so you kind of double down on what your natural response may be, like, oh, whatever, I'll get over it. But all of a sudden you're like, no, I'm right here, and I need you to understand it.
Do you ever have one of those conversations with the other housewives in the way where you walk up to them and you go, Mary, Whitney, please stop. Okay, on camera, you're this person, but in real life, don't change. Don't do this to yourself.
There's a lot of people like that. And just recently I filmed a show with other housewives that I didn't necessarily know that well, just kind of superficial. And you see a different side to people when they film. Some people are exactly the same way. Other people are like, oh my God, like I didn't expect this at all. And you want to take them aside and just go like, chill, man. Yeah. You make an ass out of yourself. Definitely.
And I think also you make a choice, like you decide. So I always would choose, you know, when you're being produced and you're thinking about what you're going to say or what you're going to do, and you're having issues with somebody else, you have the choice as a housewife. Are you going to be somebody that's direct and saying it to the other housewife to their face, or are you going to say it behind their back? And so I always chose to say it to their face, because I always would say, like, I don't want this to bite me in the butt later. Right. But what ends up happening is, if you're not naturally a confrontational person, it comes off like, ugh, like you're just like, I have to do this because I can't be someone that's going to talk about you behind your back. So it's like this, you know, it's your morals are really hitting at you.
See, I couldn't do a show like that, because I like to hold things inside, and then once I pop big time, but it's only for a few moments.
That's all right. That's good too. We like a good explosion.
Yeah.
There was a couple of those on our shows as well. And you know what? When it does happen, you're like, well, that was some good television, but that was scary.
But wouldn't you guys agree, though, that, you know, one of the big stars on every single episode is the facial expressions? Those facial expressions are priceless to a viewer.
Yes. Yeah, Mary from Salt Lake City, like the facial expressions in that woman just kill me.
I mean, so over the top, and then they like pan on it and they'll keep showing the same facial expression over and over and over.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Now, are you like radio people in the way that you show prep by reading the girls' magazines, by going out and drinking what other people are doing, what your viewers are doing, so that you know who your viewers are? Or do you just say, no, I'm just going to be me?
I mean, we do something prior to the podcast where we say, ask questions for us.
Yeah.
And then we answer those at, either at the beginning or the end of the pod, because ultimately, especially in the world of social media right now, there are so many people that you want to connect with, but it's impossible. So this way you can kind of relate and answer the questions that they really have. But, I think ultimately, if you're for everybody, you're for nobody.
Yeah.
So you've got to be yourself and, show up, and people are either going to love it or hate it. I always say I'm the personality type where you either love me or you hate me. There's really no in between.
So
that's good, though.
With the podcast and everything like that, 2 T's in a pod, do you go in and look at the numbers, or do you say, no, we'll host it, but I'm not doing the business side of the podcast?
Oh, no, we're competitive.
We're always looking. Yeah. No. And we always set them out there on Instagram. Like, these are our numbers.
We're like, oh, look, still the number 1 housewife podcast.
Yeah. We are. I know there's other housewife podcasters out there, and we're beating them. They've been out there for years. So it feels kind of good.
Whenever anybody DMs us DMs us the numbers, we could be cool, playing it cool, not repost, but we're like, no, we got a touch of a chip on our shoulder. We'll repost.
Just a little bit. Yeah. I guess just for the haters, even my good friend, Vicki Gumbelson, called me and said, hey, I saw the blogs. They don't really like you and Teddi together. And I'm like, our numbers are great. She goes, yeah, those will go down soon.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm like, no, they're not, because now I'm going to be really competitive.
And we're like, and Vicki, I have a feeling that means you wish you were on this pod. So let's simmer.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big.
Well, it's Gene Simmons that says that if you don't believe it's bigger than life, how do you expect us to believe it's bigger than life? And you guys really do make that happen.
Oh, I love that.
Thanks. That's a good call.
Come back to the show anytime in the future, you two. The door is always going to be open for you.
Oh, thank you so much. This is great. Thanks.
You be brilliant today, okay?
Thanks.